everybody, it's Friday, so it has to be Star Trek Day. Please hit the like and subscribe. Welcome to the D. Louise channel. I'm Christina, Kristina, D. Louise Book Series channel. This is where we review books and talk about books or series books and series television, Star Trek Enterprise Next Generation series channel, where we watch each episode, and each episode is a single story, but the characters progress from episode to episode, just like in a series book. Characters progress and develop from book to book to book to book. They grow. So we are currently doing Flashback Mondays. Hope you check that out. This week we finished up 2007. Next week we're going to go into 2008 with my book review magazine, letting you know what I was binge reading back then. And then check out my daily book reviews. I've done some interesting ones this week. There's some good. I might go back and redo one and see if I can add stuff to it. I have no special effects here. It's just me talking books, reading books. There's nothing special about me. And I'm hoping and praying that for a Christmas present, it doesn't cost you anything at all. It takes you half a second. If you could click that subscribe and like button, and I could get 1,000 subscribers for Christmas, wouldn't that be awesome? Uh-huh. I only need 900 more, give or take. But please check it out. So anyways, a couple weeks ago we did Remember Me. Last week we did Legacy. This week we're doing Reunion. Star Trek Season 4, Disc 2. We're up to episode 181, and I've got some issues with this one. We'll get to them in a minute. So like I said, we're starting with Reunion. Episode 181. I hate being on television. Hold on. Point out that this is the only time we see Wesley the entire episode. Just thought I'd bring it up. Okay, so we start off the episode on the main bridge with Picard, Riker, Data, Wesley, and Worf. Riker says, Mr. Data, Data says, oh, wait, let me back up here. Sorry, got ahead of myself. We are investigating radiation anomalies reported in the Gamma Arguin system by the starship LaSalle. Preliminary readings are inconclusive. They're on the main bridge. Riker says, Mr. Data. Data says, no changes, Commander. I can attest no abnormalities in the star's radiant energy. Picard says, prepare Class 2 Class 1 probes. Data says, ready, Captain. Picard says, initiate launch sequence. Worf says, Captain, Klingon attack cruisers decloaking bearing 010 Mark 237. Picard says, belay that order, Mr. Data. Riker says, did Starfleet mention any Klingon ships in this sector? Picard says, on screen. Worf says, we are being hailed. Riker says, all stop, Mr. Crusher. Wesley says, aye, sir, all stop. Picard says, open channel. A familiar face do we see? Anybody remember Worf's girlfriend? Wink, wink. Kayla says, hello, Captain Picard. Picard says, Ambassador Kayla, this is an unexpected pleasure. Kayla says, it's good to see you again, Captain Lieutenant Worf. Picard says, how may we be assistance, Ambassador? Kayla says, there's an urgent matter we must discuss, Captain. Permission to come aboard. Picard says, granted. Picard says, Lieutenant, please receive our guest. So Worf runs after the captain. Captain, I must request permission to send another officer. Picard says, may I know your reason? Worf says, my dishonor among Klingons may offend Ambassador Kayla. Picard says, Lieutenant, you are a member of this crew, Lieutenant, and you will not go into hiding whenever a Klingon vessel uncloaks. Worf says, I withdraw the request, sir. If we can have Wesley in for 2 sentences, how come we can't have Colin Meaney in the transporter room? But hey, I like extras. She gets bragging credit for a really long time. She's eating my wires again. But anyways, so Worf goes into the transporter room. I have just received the coordinates, are ready to transport them from the Klingon vessel. Worf says two. She says yes. He says energize. She doesn't like camera. She wants to be held, but she doesn't like camera. So there's a little surprise here. We go right from the transporter room to daycare center. I don't know what's up with that. Kaylor says, I hope he'll be all right. Alexandra hasn't been around, had much contact with other children. Kaylor says, not even a bite on the cheek for old time's sake. Worf says, perhaps you are not aware of my dishonor. I have accepted this commendation. Kayla says, I've heard, so now what? I have to perform some ridiculous ritual to talk to you? Worf says, you may not respect our traditions, but I do. And I'm going to bring this up again, but I'm going to bring it up now. He was raised on Earth, right? So, did he go to Klingon? Did he spend a couple of years as a child? It was mentioned in another episode that he read a lot about Klingon. But I want to know why this is so embedded in his butt. And I'll bring this up again because there's some instances later on that I want to bring up again. But do you know anybody, Chinese, Italian, Jewish, that immerses themselves so completely in whatever it is that they ignore common culture completely, but had never been there just from what they've read in books? Um, Maybe learning how to speak a foreign language and only speaking that language to other people. That wouldn't work in this country. You got to learn how to speak English or else. So it just some of it doesn't make a hill of beans of sense that he immersed himself so much in a culture that he had very little part in. And I need Balana. Somebody go to Voyager and time travel Balana for this episode. Because she and Kayla have a lot in common, and we got to get some talking going on here. So, you may not respect our traditions, but I do. Kayla says, sorry, I just thought you might want to talk. A few minutes ago, you looked like someone with a question to ask. Worf says, must I ask a question? Kayla says, yes, you must ask. What should I tell Alexander? That he has no father? And I will tell you, with the hair and the kid and his size, he looks a lot like her. He resembled her more than him, but maybe when he grows up, but we'll never know because we never got that far in the series. Before we get into my recap here, I wanted a room shot. I like having a room shot to show all the people in the room. But they did this close up of her when she was talking. And then a close up like this when Picard or Troy was talking. And I think this is the only time we see Troy. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it's the only time we see Troy. So they do this close up. Then they do this close up. Never once do we get a whole room view. And that ticked me off. because I like to have a whole room view to show all the parties involved to discuss the events in the room. So, so we have Riker, Picard, Data, Troy, and Worf, and LR. The Klingon Empire is at a critical juncture. We may be facing civil war. Riker says, over what? Kayla says, the usual excuse is tradition, duty, honor. Data says, the word excuses implies that there are ulterior motives for a conflict. Kayla says, I won't bore you with the intricacies of Klingon politics. Basically, two factions are trying to seize power. Picard, do you realize there is a threat to the Federation in this struggle? Do you believe there's a threat? Kayla says, Klingon wars seldom remain confined to the Empire. Sooner or later, they'll drag in one neighboring star system, then the Tholians, then the Ferengi. The Federation won't be able to stay out of it for long. This has been coming for some time. Only Kempek, the head of the council, has been able to maintain the peace. Troy says, now something has changed. Correct. Kempek is dying. He is aboard the cruiser. He has come specifically to meet with you, Captain Picard, alone. And again, I wanted a room shot, and I never got a room shot. Okay, so Kempek and Picard meet. Um, uh, but yeah, he didn't say all this. If the Enterprise Medical Facility can do anything, MPEG says Chile. For months I've been poisoned with small doses of Viridian 6, the wine. It has no cure. What do you want of me? After I die, you'll act as in my name to arbitrate the struggle for power. I will. Kemba says no one on the council can be trusted, and I have reasons for wanting an outsider. Picard, Kempek, you can't be serious. A Federation officer has no business. Picard, Kempek interrupts. Nonsense. You are an accomplished mediator. There is no different than any other dispute requiring your services. Picard says, on the contrary, I think it is very different, and I must respectably recline. Kempek says, if you refuse the dying request of the Klingon Supreme Commander, it will be an insult by the Federation to all Klingons. Besides, I've already sent the orders to the leaders of the two opposing factions. They're on their way. Picard says, you had no right to involve me without my permission. Kempek said, if I'd asked, you'd have said no. Picard says, this is just not a case of simple mediation. You are asking me to choose the next leader of the Klingon Empire. Kempek says, no. By tradition, the two strongest challengers fight for the right of the succession. But as a mediator, only you can designate those challenges. Picard says, but you have just said there are only two challengers arriving. What is your point? I want you to discover which one of them has killed me, Gowron or Duras. Yes, Duras. I thought you would find that interesting. Picard says, interesting? You could say that, since he tried to have me killed and conspired to strip Worf of his good name. Kempek says, and I approve. For all the glory of the Empire, that should be my epitaph. Find the assassin. The Klingon who kills without showing his face has no honor. He must not lead the Empire. Such a man could be capable of anything, even war with the Federation. Picard says, very well, I accept. Okay, then we get a Picard voiceover. Captain's log supplemental. Kempek, who ruled the Klingon Empire longer than anyone in history, is dead. We await the arrival of Duras and Gowron, rivals for the leadership of the High Council. Someone's not being a good Klingon in the classroom or the daycare center. Worf says, there is no honor in attacking the weak. Alexander says, I would have won. Worf says, you must earn victory. Alexander says, where are the other Klingons? Worf, there are no other Klingons on board. Alexander, why? Worf says, the Federation and the Klingon Empire were enemies for many years. No other Klingon has asked to serve in Starfleet. Alexander says, why? Worf says, a warrior does not ask so many questions. Alexander says, I don't want to be a warrior. Then we get back to Kayla's quarters. She says, hello, you're back early. Alexander says, he made me leave. Kayla says, maybe you should go to your room and play. Kayla says, is he under arrest? Worf says, he knows nothing of our ways. Again, if Worf was raised human in a human household, aka Fiddler on the Roof, I'm sorry, that was the actor that played his father. How is he so rigid on the Klingon stuff? I know there are some people that follow strict dietary rules, whatever, but they don't harp on it. Of course, I could be wrong. There could be people that harp on it. But like I said before, someone immerses themselves in Italian culture and Italian way of doing things and only speak in Italian. But if you live in America, then you must speak English. Otherwise, it doesn't work. I mean, you can speak both languages, but you can't go into a supermarket and speak Italian and expect people to understand you. It's just not going to work that way. So, I mean, just like if he went into the supermarket and only spoke Klingon, people would not understand him. And the Klingon language is a very angry language. The Klingons are a very angry warrior thing. It's just, I have this thing where if I don't know how to say it or what to say it, and I want you to fill in the blank, it's just. Whatever you want it to be, it's just. Um, so, our ways, you mean Klingon ways, don't you? Worf says he is Klingon. He is also my son, and I'm half human. He will find his own way. Why the sudden concern? You won't even acknowledge that he's yours. Worf says, why did you not tell me? And Kayla says, what would you have done? That right, you would have insisted that we take the oath just as tradition would demand. You should not have accepted this from me. Well, now you know. Worf, I cannot acknowledge my relationship to the boy. It would only harm him. Kayla, because you're dishonored? Worf says, as my son, he would also bear my disgrace, as would his children. But what about the boy himself? Eliminate the rest of the world. You and the boy in the room, you are the only two people that exist. Why can't you acknowledge a relationship in private, in a room, have that relationship? Are you going to have a stick you're going to have a Klingon stick shoved so far up that you are going to destroy your relationship with your biological son because of tradition? I would think that a relationship between a father and his biological son, or even adopted son, or anything like that, your relationship, love comes first. Your son comes first, not your religion or the food you eat or the exercises or rituals. The person, the absolute person, the child comes first. Your relationship with the child. You are not going to stand on your high and mighty platform box of Klingon ways if you're not going to have a relationship with your son. You're going to hurt your son irreparably because you will not have a thing with him over something that's false, by the way. It's completely false. Your father wasn't the traitor. It was the other idiot. But you've decided to take the discommendation. You're going to hear more at the end. I got some more issues. Phyllis says, why did you accept the discommendation from the High Council? Worf says, my father accused of collaborating with the Romulans at Khitomer. Kayla says, I know, and I also know that you challenged it. Worf said yes at first. Ultimately, I withdrew my challenge. Kayla says, but why, Worf? I can't believe you just give up like that. Riker's voice comes over the comm, says, Ambassador Kayla, report to the bridge. Worf says they're on our way. Oh, look, I was wrong. There's Wesley again. They're on the main bridge. Wesley says Klingon vessels Vorn and Burek holding stations at 13 kilometers. Picard says open a channel. Mr. Data, channel open. Vorn responding to hail. On screen. Look at all the extras. Oh, look, she gets to face forwards. I had to mention that. Look at that. She gets to face forward. The rest of them face backwards. Man, she's going to have bragging rights forever. Not only was she an extra, but she got to appear on camera for an extended length of time. Excellent. Bragging rights forever. Even got a uniform. Cool beans. Let's get this over with, Picard. Picard says, in good time, Duras. Duras, even in death, Kempek makes foolish decisions. You should not be involved in this, human. Picard says, the Sonok ceremony will take place in 1 hour aboard Kempek's vessel. Duras, 1 hour, what is the delay? Picard said, there is no delay. It is the time I have chosen. Duras, exactly 1 hour, Picard, do not be late. Duras, continuing, looking at Worf. Keep that Pantek away from the ceremony, Picard. He has no place on a Klingon ship. Picard out. Okay, so then Picard and Worf go into his ready room. And Picard says, Worf, the next couple of days will be difficult for you. Worf says, you have made it clear that I am to perform my regular duties, sir. Picard says, I want you to know I'm aware of your discomfort. Worf says, thank you, sir. Picard says, Ambassador Kayla will be preparing me for the role in the right of succession. Worf says, permission to speak freely, sir. Picard says, granted. Duras must not be allowed to lead the council. Picard said, he has a legal claim, Worf. Your personal feelings towards him. It is not personal, sir. His father betrayed his people to the Romulans. Duras is a traitor. Picard said, Klingon tradition may blame the son for the father's sins. I cannot, Worf. Treason was his father's disgrace. Duras' crime was to put the blame on your father. I will not forget that. But you should not forget that you chose to accept the consequences of that lie. To protect the Empire. Again, he was raised on Earth. Does Earth not mean anything to him? Just saying. The issue now is whether or not he killed Kempek. Worf, sir? Picard says he was murdered, poisoned. Worf says a Klingon would not use poison. The murderer would have no honor. Picard says Kempek believed that it was either Duras or Garan. Worf says, I know little of Garan, only that he is an outsider who often challenged the council. But Duras, I know him. His heart is not Klingon. So they all go over to the Klingon ship and they all electrocute Kempek to prove he's dead. I don't get it. I need to stick him because I want to prove he's already dead. Kayla says that's Garan. Picard says I hope this is brief. Kayla says it will be just long enough to prove that Kempek is dead. And they all speak in Klingon. And then Duras says, now complete the right of succession. It's obvious who the two challengers are. Picard says, we will proceed according to law, to the traditions and precedents set down in Klingon law. Garan, what do you know of Klingon law? Human, Picard, we will reconvene on the Enterprise within. Duras says, no, finish it here, now. And then there's an explosion. Then Worf goes to Kayla's quarters. I have not received your report on the explosion. Kayla says 2 Klingons killed a few minor injuries. Where were you concerned about me? Worf says, as head of security, it is my duty to be concerned. Kayla said, is that it? Just official concern for my well-being? Worf says, you know my feelings. Kayla says, maybe I've forgotten. Worf said, you're right. I would have insisted that we take the oath, but not just because of tradition. I thought I thought about telling you, wanted to tell you. I wasn't ready. When I left, you said you'd never be complete without me. I took some time, but I came to realize I need you too, Worf. And then they get all mushy mushy for Klingons. Again, he loves this woman, but he's gonna choose the Klingon Empire and his um beliefs in the Klingon Empire over love. I don't get it. He's choosing the state or the government over the personal. I In private, who's gonna know what you if it's just you private, if it's your wife, your child. He's choosing the government over his wife and child. There is something wrong with that. So they say some Klingon stuff, and Worf says, I cannot allow you to suffer my humiliation. Kara says, there would be no suffering. I don't care what other Klingons think of you. Worf says, but what of the boy? He may want to live in the Empire someday. He would be an outcast, another traitor from a family of traitors. Kayla says, family of traitors, I don't believe that for a minute. Worf says, respect my wishes in this matter. I cannot take the oath with you, and I cannot claim your son. Kayla says, if you cannot be his father, at least be his friend. Again, I gotta bring this up again. He was raised on Earth with human parents. How did he become so passionate about Klingon tradition and culture and ways that he's going to give up love and his child? He's throwing away his child to respect the government's wishes because his butt agreed to it, agreed to suffer, even though he's not in the wrong at all yet. And I will have an issue with that too. But he's giving up his family for a false lie because his king asked him to. So then she goes and talks to Picard. We haven't completed an analysis of the bomb debris, and Dr. Crusher is still studying the remains of the two men killed in the explosion. We need more time. Kayla says Duras and Guran will be here in a few minutes. I don't think you can delay this meeting again. Picard said, is there some way of stretching out the formalities once they arrive? Kayla says, in the modern rite of succession, only a brief proclamation that the two challenges have been chosen is necessary. Picard says, you said modern rite. How was the ritual performed in the past? Kayla says the old forms dictated that the challenges performed the Jajunk. It's a long involved ceremony where the challenges list their battles they've won, the prizes they've taken. The idea is to prove their worthiness to lead the council. Picard says, can the old forms still be used? Kayla says, it's up to you. You can use any form you want. Captain, what do you know about Worf's commendation? Kayla says, my interest is personal. I understand that you were there, stood by him before the council. I'd like to know what happened. Picard says, sorry, I cannot discuss this. So they go into the observation lounge. Duras, the council must have a leader now. Complete the rite so I can kill this Hadibah. Garen says, you will die slowly, Duras. Duras says, you've already proved you don't have the courage to face me. Perhaps you should plant another bomb. Picard says, they say all this Klingon stuff. Sit down, we will begin the Chashung. What? Garen says. Duras says, Kayla, this woman is giving you bad advice, Picard. The Chashung is obsolete. Picard says, I choose to respect the ancient ritual. Each of you must prove your worthiness to lead the High Council. Garen says, that will take hours. Kayla says, or days, depending on your cooperation. Then Worf and his son have a little bonding over the bat'leth thingy. Okay, then Garan comes to visit Kayla. And if you watch the scene, and I'll see if I can focus on it, she's got red nail polish on. She's a girl. She's an earth person. And I see that proves that you can be Klingon and earth at the same time. Because I'm assuming that only earth people wear nail polish. I could be wrong. But I'm just saying it shows that you can embrace both cultures at the same time. Um, Kayla says the next meeting is in 3 hours. Garan says I would speak with you alone, Ambassador. Kayla says I'm honored. Kaywan says Picard is prolonging the Jajang. Why? Kayla says he has sufficient reasons to proceed carefully. Garan said he relies on you for his knowledge of Klingon law. Kayla says yes. Garan says then he values your advice. You could quicken the pace. Kayla says possibly why should I? Garan says your position is unique. You have never wondered about serving in the Klingon Empire. Kayla says, I serve in my own way. Garan says, as a Federation ambassador, few rewards, but little guard. Kayla says, what do you want? Garan says, what do you want? Command of a ship or a seat on the council? There are many opportunities for you in the Empire. Like the High Council Klingon masculine society would allow a female on their council. I don't believe it. Kayla says opportunities that will present themselves only if you come to power. You talk like a Ferengi, Garan. Kempek was also stubborn. He too refused to listen. Now he's gone. You need not make the same mistake. Kayla says Caleb was old and weak. I am not. All right. Finally, we see Geordi, Data, and Riker. Geordi says we've completed our analysis of the bomb debris. Data says the explosive was a Trisarian derivative. Geordi says the entire device couldn't have been more than 3 cubic meters in size. Riker says then it could have been hidden anywhere in the room. Geordi says there's one other thing, Commander. The bomb had a molecular decay detonator. Data says only one race uses that device, sir. Riker says the Romulans. Sorry. So then we're in the observation lounge. Picard, Riker, Data, Worf, Keller, and Geordi. Picard says, how could Romulans have planted a bomb aboard a Klingon attack cruiser? Worf says it's impossible. Kayla says, not if the Romulans had help from one of the Klingons. Geordi says, Klingons and Romulans working together, they've been blood enemies for 75 years. Picard says, perhaps Duras or Garan wishes to improve that relationship. Riker says, a new Klingon alliance with the Romulans, if true, Data says, it would represent a fundamental shift of power in the quadrant. Picard says, indeed, it would put the Federation in a very uncomfortable position. Riker says, Garan or Duras. Kayla says, Garan came to me alone, wanted me to speed up the Zhajang, offered me a seat on the council if I'd help him. Picard says, does that suggest a Romulan connection? Kayla says, it also implied that I would end up like Kempek if I didn't cooperate. Worf says, Captain, I disagree. It must be Duras. Kayla says, why? Picard says, we have prior dealings with Duras that showed him to be untrustworthy. Kayla says, can you be more specific? Picard says, no. Mr. Worf, we now have a conspiracy on our hands that could be a direct threat to the security of the Federation. Worf says, yes, sir. Picard says, as security officer, you will accompany me to the next transition proceeding. Worf says, Captain, they will be incensed. My presence will be disruptive. And Picard's like, yeah, it will. So then Kayla goes to her computer and says, computer lists star dates of the last Enterprise mission to the Klingon home planet. Star dates 43685 to 43689. Kayla says, how many ship logs during that period? Computer says 43 officer logs, 10 personal logs. Kayla says, is there a personal log for Lieutenant Worf? Computer says affirmative, access is restricted. Kayla says, eliminate all personal logs. List the other 43 in chronological order. We'll just take them one at a time. So they're still doing the ritual thingy. Because says both your claims have been properly made and recorded. We are ready for the final phase of the Zhajang. There will be a recess while I review your petitions. Because I know you are as concerned as I am about the explosions aboard the Kempex ships. I assume both of your investigations are continuing. Garin says the investigations are complete. They revealed nothing of any importance. Picard says that's very interesting because our analysis turned up some startling results. Picard asks Worf to, Will, come join us. Worf, Garin says he has no place here, Picard. Duras, I will not sit at the same table with that. Picard says it's my prerogative to investigate anything that may be relevant to the right of succession. Lieutenant Worf is my security officer. His presence is required. Duras said we will not proceed. Picard says if you wish to withdraw from the Zhajang, that is your option. Proceed, Mr. Worf. Worf said, what did your investigation reveal about the explosion? Duras says it was a bomb. Worf says, was your analysis just as insightful? Garan says it was a common explosive. Worf says, what type? Garan says, triciceran. Worf says, what about the detonator? Duras says, this is pointless. The findings were inconclusive. Worf says, fortunately, our investigation was more thorough. The bomb used a molecular decay detonator. Garan says, what? Picard says, it was a Romulan device. Duras, I will return to my ship. I want to confirm these conclusions myself. Garan says, as will I. Picard says, Mr. Worf, please be sure to send a complete record of our findings to both vessels and to the High Council. That will be all. Then we're back in Kayla's quarters. Computer interlock with the Klingon Imperial Information Net. Federation Ambassador Kayla regarding diplomatic access to High Council records, security code, blah, 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 blah. Proceed. Khitomer computer displays summary of the most recent High Council inquiry regarding the Khitomer massacre. Computer says access denied, restricted, materials due Chechen clearance only. Kayla says by whose order? Computer says council member Duras. Kayla says access biographical files, subject name Counselor Duras. So then we're in Duras's quarters. Duras says, advise my councils on the one to convene, there is much to discuss. And his guard says, look, and he says, there's a priority message to you from the home planet. It appears that Ambassador Kayla is looking into things that she should not be. Duras says, distract the guards. So he goes and distracts the guards. So then Duras goes into Kayla's quarters. I have informed of your attempt to access restricted council records. Kayla says, I've been investigating what happened at Khitomer. Not an easy task considering that most of the records are sealed. Duras says, Worf's father was a traitor. Kayla says, no, the evidence was altered to make it appear that way. I found it interesting to read that your father was also a Khitomer, and you are the one who sealed the records. Duras says, how dare you insult my father's name? Khitomer says, don't play the wounded Klingon for me, Duras. You don't do it very well. What happened in the council chambers? How did you get Worf to take the blame for you? Duras says, do not pursue this matter further. Kayla says, the son betrays his people to the Romulans just as his father did, Duras? Okay, so then we're in the doctor's office. Beverly says, one of the Klingons who died in the explosion was with Duras. The other was with Garan. I've been examining the bodies trying to get a clue to where the bomb was hidden. There's always a pattern in the lacerations and tissue damage. It would normally give us a clear indication of the direction, distance, force of impact. Riker says, normally, in this case, the pattern was virtually impossible to detect. I couldn't understand it until I looked at the dioscans. This wound is different from all the others. It was made from the inside out. The bomb was planted in one of the forearms. Riker says it is considered an honorable way for a Klingon to die, a suicide that takes out an enemy. Which one of them was it? Beverly says Duras's man. So Worf is bonding with the kid and he's getting to know him. When we have more time, I'll take you to the holodeck and demonstrate in more detail how to blah, 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 blah. Is he not hurting the child by forming a relationship that he refuses to honor, to acknowledge? He needs to acknowledge the kid as his. He needs to say, hey, kid, I'm your dad. But he's letting all this other crap get in the way. And I have some issues with the next couple of scenes, so we'll get there. Okay, so go into Kayla's room, and she's been murdered. And Worf calls security. and the doctors. And they get there and they pronounce her gone. Then he goes to his quarters and gets the bat lift. That episode not too long ago, Almost Human, where the kid screamed for honoring his deceased relatives or something like that, and Worf complained about it. Excuse me, he's doing the same thing. Just saying. So Worf goes in his room and gets the bat lift, takes off his button thingy, communicator, and then takes off his shiny sash. I thought that was Klingon. I thought that was representative of his Klingon ways. So why did he take that off? But anyways, so they're in the quarters, and Beverly says multiple stab wounds to the chest and abdomen, too much trauma to the internal organs. There wasn't enough time to get her into stasis. Picard says, "Where is Worf?" "I don't know. He just left after I got here." Computer, locate Lieutenant Worf. Computer says, "Lieutenant Worf is not aboard the Enterprise." "Where is he?" Computer says, "Lieutenant Worf transported to the Klingon ship Vorn at 17:30 hours." Riker's like, "I'm going." So, Worf goes over to the Klingon ship and he walks into Doris and he's like, "Why did you let him in? Why is he here?" And the guard says, "Well, he claimed the right of vengeance." "Doris, you have no rights here, traitor." Worf says, "Kayla was my maid," and they let him stay. And then Data and Lieutenant Worf resist her. Riker says he's coming back with us one way or another. Set phasers to STEM. Then we're back here again. Duras, I'm the only one, Worf, the only one who can prove your innocence. Kill me and you will be a traitor forever. Worf says, then that's how it will be. And then they're back in the ready room. And Worf kills Duras in front of Data and Riker. Alright, now I have some big issues here, some huge issues here. Those of you who have made it through my video this far, I thank you for it, and please hit the like and subscribe. Let me know I'm doing a good job here. So Worf is standing before Picard, and Picard says, "Mr. Worf, your service aboard the Enterprise has been exemplary until now." Worf said, "I acted within the boundaries of Klingon law and tradition." Picard says, "So the High Council seems to agree. They consider the manor closed. I don't." "Mr. Worf, the Enterprise crew currently includes representatives from 13 planets. They each have their individual beliefs and values, and I respect them all. But they have all chosen to serve Starfleet. If anyone cannot perform his or her duty because of the demands of their society, they should resign." Picard says, "Do you wish to resign?" Worf says, "No, sir. I hoped you would not throw away a promising career. I understand your loss. We all admire Kayla. A reprimand will be on your record. Dismissed." Picard says, "Now, first off, he killed somebody in cold blood in front of witnesses. And because his culture says it's okay, it's okay. But the Federation side of things, he killed in front of Federation officers. How come the Federation doesn't discipline him in some way? "Oh, it'll be recorded in your record." Big whoop! He killed somebody, reduced in rank or something. Help, Tom Paris got something like that. But no, because of who he is, because of who, blah, 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 he's a thing's going to appear in his record. He murdered somebody. Somebody murdered his wife. In today's day and age, even in when this was filmed, you killed my spouse, I'm going to kill your spouse. But, so we both end up in prison. Two wrongs don't make a right here. But apparently the Klingons, this was a bad thing for kids to see. This was a really bad thing for kids to see. To teach kids this show, the type of show this is, the legacy that this show has, to show approval for death is not right. No discipline whatsoever, personally. Not taken off duty for a month, nothing. They totally, absolutely just said it was fine what he did. It was okay. We don't like him, but it was okay, and we're not going to do anything to him personally. I think that's a really wrong message to send. A really wrong message to send. Um, so Picard says, um, isn't it time for the truth about your father's innocence to be told? After all, you only accepted this to dishonor, to protect the name of Duras and hold the Empire together. Now that he's died in disgrace, what is gained by further silence? Worf says each member of the Klingon High Council has shared in that lie. They will not be so willing to admit their own dishonor, but the day will come when my brother and I will convince them to speak the truth. And that's an upcoming episode. I'm not sure when, but they do go through it. But I still think that teaching kids that this was okay is wrong. That Picard is angry that Worf did this, but a reprimand will appear in his file. Big whoop! You stole a cup of coffee, a reprimand will appear in your file. I just there has to be something. But because his culture says it's okay, they're gonna let it go. But Picard just finished telling him that there are other 13 other cultures on the ship. Well, probably 100 more cultures on this ship. But you killed somebody as revenge. It's just not right. They're not giving the right message here. It's not right. But anyways, so this is when Worf tells Alexander that his human parents will meet him at Starbase 73 and they will care for you. Alexander says, "Why can't I stay here?" Worf says, "You deserve a home, a family. They can provide that. I cannot. I miss her too." Alexander says, "Are you my father?" Worf says, "Yes, I'm your father." And he couldn't. There's a whole bunch of things with this episode. And if you've stayed with my thing this far, thank you very much. Please hit the like and subscribe. Let me know I'm doing a good job. It's just me reading books, talking books, me watching Star Trek and giving my opinion on Star Trek. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. And tune in next week when we do Imperfect Future. We did Remember Me, Legacy, Reunion today. Next week is Future Imperfect. Season 4, Disc 2, and we'll do episode 182 next week. So please stay tuned for that. Please hit the like and subscribe. Let me know I'm doing a good job. Really appreciate it. Thank you.